Hello, I'm James, and I wanted to do a little sketchbook tour. This would be for July. So let's go through. This is probably right before I started. I subscribed with New Masters Academy. I really like their art learning. Um, and I've been doing it about uh, on and off for maybe the past. I started back up in COVID, so like way back in 2020 probably. But I just resubscribed again after about 2 years off. Um, but I just wanted to go through this. These are just kind of doodles. Let me go ahead and make a new layer so I can kind of draw on top of everything here. Let's find a good color. I think red's good. And then let's go for like a marker, or is this pencil fine? Yeah, pencil's fine. Okay. So this one's got a couple of faces. Nothing great. This was, like I said, these were just doodles right before I started up with New Masters Academy. And the stuff that I was focusing on for New Masters Academy was just kind of getting more solid shapes in, like this stuff. But let's go ahead to the next page and we can probably see. Oh, I should probably clear that. Uh, but yeah, it's mostly just a lot of drawing simple geometric shapes, like these cubes down here, this table. I don't think any of this is in the lesson yet. Uh, let's see. Yeah, a lot of this is just like more doodles, a lot of shapes. Sketching an apple. I think that was from 30. You can draw in 30 days. I was thinking about starting that book up. Some more just simple shapes. And then I think this was one of the homework pages from New Masters Academy. It was just like do a bunch of ellipses, do a bunch of squares, do a bunch of a lot of things. And then you can see where my drawing starts to get a little more solid. Here I'm working on circles or ellipses and cylinders. Um, Going back to squares too. Just a lot of simple stuff. This one right here was me coming up with my username for the channel, Fistful of Frames, and then trying to sketch out a little logo. Uh, I don't think I liked any of these. I took them into Firefly too, just to see if I could get anything. I actually do like these ellipses. Um, and then these are kind of some of the mark making exercises. Go like they wanted you to get used to drawing lines, making a bunch of just straight lines, just getting into the habit of not doing like chicken scratch lines or like doing a lot of segmented things. Just kind of get into the flow of drawing again, which for me really helps. I am a art school dropout, so I went from like 2016 to 2018, 17 maybe, um, to the Art Institutes of Sacramento. I might be wrong with the dates there. I went for maybe about 2 years before they shut down, but it all worked out in the end. I ended up with no student loan, so that's that's actually super pog. Let's see. And then the page after this is just more ellipses. Uh, oop, lost video for a second. Sorry. It'll come back. There we go. So this is just more ellipses. You can see more of the line exercises down at the bottom. Got a derpy little sketch of me without a beard. And then right here is where I can see like some exercises. Like they still, for me, it's about, I'd say maybe 6 and 10 of my drawings turn out okay. And then those other 4 out of 10, that other 40% is like stuff like this where it's not quite right. Like if I were to redraw that, I'd open that up a little more. make it straight first of all. Open it up a little more at the top, and then make it a little more congruent at the bottom. Um, but yeah, for me, a lot of it is just getting into the habit of making shapes. You can see I mark a lot of things with a little X or a little check mark if I think I did a good job. The little question mark's questionable for this one, but I've just got a bunch of stuff like that. I've got one more sheet for this one, and it was just some more of the line exercises, some point to point stuff, and then some planes in space. Just trying to get back into the swing of things drawing. Let's see. Then I've got this one over here. I think this one is, let's see. Yeah, this one's probably when I started up NMA proper. I think I started my membership in July 2nd. So I've been doing that for about a month now. And as we start to get towards the end of the sketchbook, you'll see where hopefully, like I see, I've gotten a little stronger at drawing. This one's got some squares in space. Oop. Let me go ahead and. So I'm drawing on an empty layer here. On this one, you can see I'm kind of trying to rotate some of the squares. Just some random circles, some spheres. Still working on ellipses. Definitely working on making squares versus rectangles, or where it doesn't come out quite right. So that's another thing I'm trying to reinforce in myself. Looking at my drawings, like now, going back and just going over things. Like this page looks really strong. I have a lot of X's marked. I'm doing like little cutouts. Like this is a sphere with part of it cut out. It's a little hard to tell, which is why I marked it with an X. But even stuff like this cube down here, I'm trying to get more confident with laying down shapes. And even stuff like this, like individually, all these cubes, I didn't like them, but they do look like they hold space and a little bit of weight when you looking back at them now. Were they not like I'd make a whole piece out of just drawing squares, but like I like the way the squares or the way they're coming out. Let's see, let's clear this. So this one, mostly circles, like plotting circles into a perspective plane. But I feel like this really helped me locking down. Let me see what's on the next page. Yeah, on locking down more so my ellipses than my working on my squares in space. And then what else do we got? We've got more of this. I really like these exercises from what's the book? I think How to Draw, Scott Robertson's How to Draw. I'm trying to look at it on top of my computer. I can't get to the title right now. But yeah, a lot of it was just, this one was kind of, you start with one square and then you kind of go, it was going through multiplying. So you can kind of multiply while keeping the scale right. So you're not just kind of guessing at where your squares come off. And that worked out really well. Like you can tell that these are trying to be the same size. I botched it on kind of this width, but identifying those things, or those are kind of the roadblocks. If you don't draw, you can't get the mistakes out, and if you're not being able to identify your mistakes, then you're never going to be able to get stronger. This was definitely some of the NMA stuff. Sketching some organic shapes, some bell. I think this one was a bell pepper. This was me working on the stem from this. But yeah, you can like just even from like the last page of this is like I said, this is probably the beginning of July. I can check. June 25th. So this is definitely before I started NMA again. And then this is maybe like 2 weeks in, just the dedicated practice. You can see the difference it's making, or I can at least. And I really do like where I'm heading with drawing. Uh, this looks like a bunch more stuff. Yeah, so this is like a lot more of the oop. Let me go in and make, there we go. So I'm drawing on a layer on top of everything like a transparency. So I got a bunch more of these, working on squares. I feel like I'm getting a lot more comfortable with construction. These ellipses right here, I really like. These are a couple failed squares, a failed water bottle over here. Some more line exercises. Uh, and then this one. So these, I really remember these. These are one of the assignments. Go through an envelope. So these weren't supposed to be super detailed. These like fruits and gourds and things. It was kind of blocking in from reference. So kind of getting into the habit of and I'm taking their I gotta look it up real quick to see what the name of it is. I think it's Foundations of Drawing and Perspective. Fundamentals of Drawing and Perspective. So this one was it was more like getting a handle on blocking things in, kind of getting those negative shapes and proportions right before you start fiddling in with details. And I feel like that's a really strong skill to have early on, because it does help with things. If you're not able to figure out kind of the outside contours of a shape, trying to go through with those negative space and envelope in, if you're just kind of like laying in negative shapes, like if you notice kind of this shape over here, you can kind of lay in those negative shapes, and that kind of helps you know where not to draw or where to draw. And so that's kind of a really valuable skill that I'm trying to pick up. It didn't work out so well with this bell pepper, but with the rest of the things, like with any skill, um, at first these things aren't working out for me, and then I can really see like this is me kind of absorbing the skill, and I'm sure on the next pages it gets a little better, probably, hopefully. And it does. So like this one is more of a and the way the references are set up too, it's really nice where you're not just drawing random things. Like you can kind of see the same pear is placed next to the same gourd. They'll change the positioning or change the shadows, but stuff like that. And this is all stuff that I wouldn't have been able to draw just by myself, through self learning. This is more ellipses. I think I ran into a stumbling point with one of the references I was supposed to be practicing, and I had to just go through and I think it's an ellipse, and kind of it's a knob hanging off of something, so it's really awkward where it's like this. Oops, I don't want to be drawing on that. I want to be right here. Where was I? Yeah, so I started working on all these ellipses. One of the references I was drawing from, it had a knob for a drawer, kind of like that, where it was a really awkward angle for me. So I definitely do remember going through here. This was drawing some cones. I think the main lesson here was trying to kind of doing wireframes or contour lines. just to kind of break up the shapes and help you to see the shapes better in 3D space. Yeah, and this is a lot more of the same, just kind of wrapping lines around the forms of these ellipses and these cones. Just did a ton of those. So, and then this one, I come back in with some more. It's varied. Some more ellipses, some cones, and then a bunch of squares. And then I finish out with a lot more of the wrapping. So I'm starting to wrap it around the squares. It doesn't go so well in the beginning, um, but it does help me kind of see. I did find that going through and like these lines, like adding these lines, all this stuff over here, all this stuff that's not just the outer structure. Um, it does help me identify when I'm not making a good square. I can definitely see this square right here. This angle is just not good. And these are all things I identified as I was drawing, but it wasn't necessarily going back and correcting them was my main focus. It was getting it down so I have something like this to look back on later. And I keep drawing on the wrong layer, so hopefully I erase all the red. I'm not. It's not like I'm losing a ton of information if I do erase something on accident. And then this stuff is when I got. Let's see. I can check the date on this. Yeah, so this is July 2nd. So I started this one probably the same time as the other one. The last sheet I just did, and this is well into the new Masters Academy stuff again. You can see more squares, some more cones, a lot of ellipses. But the thing I can see just going from like this one of these pages to one of my earlier pages, you can see they're becoming more solid, not just more tight in the way I'm drawing, but just kind of from these shapes over here that look really wonky, chicken scratchy. Just oops, wrong page. To stuff like this where it's a lot more solid. Even a mistake one like this, I really do like the progress I'm making in the drawings. And let me make my extra layer because I don't want to go over these thumbnails. Um, but yeah, so this is the knob that I was talking about earlier. The one that sent me into kind of a spiral on ellipses. But yeah, this was kind of drawing a still life of a oil bottle, a box of ink, and then some sort of drawer. I think I ended up giving up on that, and I went back to brush up on basics. You can kind of see I'm working on ellipses and kind of fanning them out. Um, but yeah, this is more of kind of working on the openness of an ellipse, uh, trying to get good quick so I can get through that assignment. And this is just a lot more of the same, going through the ellipses, trying to do them, trying to rotate them, trying to get them at different angles, some squares in there too. Okay, and this one you can really see where I didn't nail it, but I started getting a lot more specific with the practice. Like up here trying to make a square and have an ellipse come off going the same kind of where it's believable, kind of in the same direction, kind of almost where it reads like one of those classic Willy Wonka gobstoppers from the movie. But yeah, just tons of pages on this. Oh, nope, don't want any of those in there. Let me get rid of all these lines. There we go. Make sure I'm on the blank layer. Perfect. And you can see this is a lot more, just more of the same, just ellipses and awkward angles, trying to throw, for me it was kind of the knob shape, so getting kind of this and the shaft to both go in the same direction and have the same openness, or kind of like here you can tell that these are two different angles, which I don't want, versus something like this, which is more like what I think the reference was supposed to be. Not like that, but just kind of the practice I'm going through trying to get these things down. And like I said, I can see the progress I'm making as I go through these. This was a little lighter. Oops. A little lighter. I've been drawing things on my desk. This is one of the assignments, sketch thumbnails for a still life. That was what was way back here. And we're getting there. Let's see. This one, another thumbnail. Some more ellipses. As I'm going through the assignments, I'm a lot of this is just kind of random doodling as I'm watching kind of a lecture, and then some of it is like random doodling. I encounter a problem, and then I go through and I try to find, try to identify where I'm making an issue, and then going through a bunch of those. There we go. I couldn't figure out where that red circle was coming from for a second. But these are more thumbnails. I feel like I didn't, some feedback I got on these, which I can see now, I didn't do a great job varying them. You can kind of see they're all kind of the same angle, and I don't do a really good job shading and getting in different values for the shadows. I try to push it a little more on the second one, and in the second set I can see where I really like this one, but I can see where I'm starting to try and drop out details and just do it quick. This was kind of my attempt at kind of putting together a bigger one, and I just shrunk it down. But these are also more thumbnails. And then this is the last page of thumbnails, and I can just see a very striking distance even from the beginning of the month, not being able to draw like a square properly, to being able to kind of roughly lay in a thumbnail for a still life. That's great progress for me, especially. And then I have one last page, and I think this is just so this one specifically was I was checking out one of the different anime courses, Intro to Quick Sketching, and I think I'm gonna try and stick with that class because it's trying to draw people quickly, not so much fussing with the poses, but it's taught by an ex-Disney guy, and I really like that course. I'm gonna try and stick with it, but I need to brush up on some anatomy first, because a lot of it is catching people in quick poses, and I did really end up liking that one. Let me get rid of that and see what else we have here. So for layer 2, yeah, so this was me kind of drawing along as I listened to the lecture. I don't really have a goal in mind for drawing, other than I'd really like to draw the best I can, and then from there I'd like to see if there's any chance of me going professional or making my own animations. But this was these were wrapped. This is a pumpkin, this is a little orange or a pear, this is a gourd, but this was wrapping more contour lines. You can see some of them are more successful than others, but wrapping contour lines around organic shapes. And it's just it's just really cool to me how looking at these drawings and seeing how much more solid they get. This was like a thermos. I don't feel like I did that well in the thermos, but still trying to draw more complex things from the references that are there, and seeing the results, whether they're good or bad, is what really interests me. This is a mixture of some more quick sketching stuff and just drawing some random shapes as I was listening to the lectures. And then this one I went through and with Portrait Studio, a program I have, just drawing some basic shapes from kind of computer reference, photo reference, and I have a lot of those. Even these you can see kind of over the course of a week as I'm doing these. I'm doing maybe 2 pages of these a day. Just kind of even from this to this, you can see how they get a lot more solid. And that's kind of what I'm loving about the new Masters Academy. It's a lot more, it's the closest thing I've felt to like the college level classes I've had since dropping out of art school. And I really liked this one. Um, this was just drawing more of those shapes from Portrait Studio, like I mentioned earlier, as I was going through the quick sketching. And then these I did maybe about a couple of hours ago. So you can see where they're getting a lot stronger. Yes, there's still some mistakes in construction, and definitely I'm not great at shading. But even to just be able to see these things and plotting them in a much more simple way is so much more than I was able to do at the beginning of the month. Like I mentioned, just it's kind of like night and day going from kind of stuff like this where it was harder to construct the squares. I wasn't maybe drawing the ellipses as open as they could be, to getting to stuff like this is definitely my goal. And then, yeah, that's about it for this month. Thanks for watching.